Hi, second graders. We are going to be starting a brand new unit in math this week.
Woo!
It's exciting, I know. So we're going to take a little break from all of the addition and subtraction practice that we've been working on.
Thank God, I am so tired of addition and subtraction.
Well, you should still be practicing those facts because we're going to come back to it, but we are taking a little break with the work in our packet.
Can I just do reflex for a little bit to practice?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's keep doing reflex and getting our green lights, but in the packet, our work is going to look a little bit different. So this week, we are going to be starting a unit called geometry.
What?
Yes, I know.
I have a high school son who's doing geometry.
Yeah. Well, I get that a lot. I even have parents sometimes that will come up to me and say, I can't believe my second grader is doing geometry. But let me break it down for you. Geometry just means the study of shapes.
Oh, okay.
Shapes. You probably recognize some shapes on this paper.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, we can take a look at this a little bit more closely. You have this paper in your folder this week, and this is a paper that you get to keep at home. You do not need to bring it back, and it's going to be an excellent resource for you to go back to over the next few weeks while we're studying geometry.
I want to highlight what you just said.
Let's hear it.
Everybody, do not put this 2D double-sided paper, 2D shapes and 3D shapes, back in your folder and return it to us. Don't do it. Keep it at home in your workspace because you're going to need it this week and next week and possibly in the future. So do not put that back in your folder. It is for you to reference.
You did a good job.
Thanks.
I like that. We should make more of these videos.
We should. Yeah.
So, geometry again is that study of shapes. Now, shapes can be 2D shapes, which are also called polygons. It just means a shape with many sides. Or they can be 3D shapes, which we'll take a look at on the back side of this in just a few minutes. And a 3D shape is something that you can hold in your hand. A 3D shape might be like a box that you have at home or a ball.
Okay.
And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be getting to this worksheet in just a couple minutes, where we are going to try and match some of the shapes that we see on this resource page to some of the shapes that you see on your worksheet, okay? So taking a look at these 2D shapes, 2D stands for 2 dimensions, okay? Dimensions really mean that you can draw a shape on a piece of paper, but you can't physically hold it in your hand.
Okay.
So you can draw lines that go up and down, you can draw lines that go sideways, but if they're stuck on paper, they're called 2-dimensional shapes. Okay. Now, some of these you are probably very familiar with. Mrs. Grant, have you heard of a circle before?
I have.
Did
Many
you?
times.
A circle is part of geometry, so you're already halfway there. There's some others like a square, a rectangle, and a triangle. I bet these top 4 are super familiar to our second graders. But then at the bottom, there's a few that might be new vocabulary words for our friends.
Those are big words.
Yeah. We have the word rhombus. Rhombus kind of looks like there was a square and someone kicked one side of it or sat on it. We have a trapezoid, and you can see there's 2 lines that are nice and straight and then 2 lines that are kind of crooked or slanted. Yeah. Pentagon means that there are 5 sides. So if you counted up all those sides and it said 5, it would be a pentagon. And then a hexagon means 6 sides.
Wow.
Yeah. So if we just start by looking at this worksheet and then we take a look at what we're supposed to do over here, there is a word bank. And you're going to notice that some of the words in this word bank are on the resource page.
Some of them, not all of them, and we will be sure to tell you which ones are not on here.
That's going to be pretty tricky. Now, why don't we look at the 3D shapes on the other side,
Okay.
and we'll see if we can match some of them on here. So Mrs. Grant's going to turn that over, and you can turn it over on yours too. These are going to be our 3D shapes, and 3D stands for
3 dimensions.
Exactly. So now not only can you draw something up and down, but it can also kind of like come out of the page. It's going to look, when we draw it, that you can almost touch it. Okay, it's 3D. And a 3D object, again, is a real physical object that you might find around the house. Again, some of these might be really familiar, like a sphere.
It's kind of like a baseball or a ball, right?
Yeah, exactly. Any kind of ball would be a sphere. It's tricky to say.
Sphere.
Sphere.
That PH makes the F sound, huh?
It does, just like in the word phone.
Yep.
We have a cone. Cone is kind of like a
Party
party
hat.
hat.
A party hat.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
And it's almost my birthday.
It is.
It's almost my birthday.
You're gonna be 20 again, right?
20.
20. You look it.
Thank you. A rectangular prism looks like a box,
Mm-hmm.
but it's long and stretched out like a rectangle.
Looks like an Amazon box to me.
It does.
Mm.
That someone would get for their birthday. If they had a birthday
Yeah.
coming up. Okay. Then we have a cube. A cube reminds me of when you're playing a game and you're rolling dice.
Oh yeah.
Because they are cubes.
Yeah.
They're
All
teeny-
the sides are exactly the same.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're all squares.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a cylinder.
Looks like a can.
Yeah, like a can of sparkling water.
Yeah.
Or a canister of oatmeal.
Or a can of green beans.
Oh, no. No one likes green beans. Mm-mm. And then we have a pyramid.
A pyramid. That looks like a pyramid.
It looks just like a pyramid, so they call it a pyramid.
Weird.
I know. All right. Now, students might be wondering, there's all this information off to the side. There's words I've never heard of, there's numbers, and I'll tell you what. We're going to get to all of this eventually, but it's nothing we have to worry about for today's lesson.
No.
Okay.
Which is why it's important that you save this paper, because we're going to need that information, I think Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and like next week.
Yes,
So don't
absolutely.
lose that paper.
Super important. I would put a magnet on there and keep it on your refrigerator.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Or in your work area. All right. Let's take a look at what we have to do on today's worksheet for Monday. So we need to write the name of each of the shapes that we see on the lines here. All right. Now, there are a couple tricky ones on this paper. So I think the ones that Mrs. Grant and I would like to do with you are going to be the tricky ones that maybe you're not familiar with or you can't find on the worksheet.
You know what else I want to point out?
Yep.
There's only 9 shapes, but there's 12 words in the word bank, so that makes it even more tricky.
So that means they're not going to use all of the words up here below.
They won't.
And this is a combination of solids, which are our 3D shapes, and polygons, which are 2D shapes. So,
Should we start with the 3D shapes, the solids, since that's the page we have showing right now?
Sure. Yep.
Okay.
And I can see one already that I think might trick our students.
Ooh.
So out of the 3D shapes, I'm noticing that number 2, number 3, and number 4 are all 3D shapes. And number 6, sorry. I don't know, I think I said 4, but that's definitely a 6. These two look similar, Mrs.
They
Grant.
do, but I see a difference.
What do you notice?
I see that this one, all of the sides around it are really long, but the top and the bottom look like squares. They're not
Yeah.
the same.
You're right.
But on this shape, every single side is a square. They're all the same.
And if you look at our paper, if it's long and it has rectangles all the way around it, it's called a rectangular prism.
Yeah.
And if they're all squares, it's called a cube.
Okay.
So we can use that information to help us out. So for number 3, that should be a cube. And then for number 6, this one should be a rectangular, whoa, what a long word. A rectangular prism.
All right. You want to cross those off?
Oh,
that
that's a
way
great
we know
idea.
we've used them.
So we've used rectangular prism and we
Cube.
used cube. All right. Now, Mrs. Grant, there is one on here that is not listed on our 2D shape side. Would you mind?
There's
turning-
actually 2 that are not listed on here.
Ooh, she spots an extra
Should
one.
I flip it over?
Yeah, let's
Okay.
flip it over and do those tricky ones for our class today. I wonder if we must have been spotting at least one of the same ones.
Yeah.
The one that I noticed immediately was not on this paper was number 5.
Yeah. That's one of them.
Number 5 is tricky because if I were to count all the sides, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides. That's not
That's
on
not
here.
on there. I know an animal that has 8 legs. And it swims in the ocean.
Ooh, okay, 8 legs.
It's not a spider because it swims in the ocean.
They don't swim in the ocean.
The legs are called tentacles.
An octopus.
An octopus. Because you know what octo means?
What?
It means 8.
Ooh.
So octagon is a shape with 8 sides, a polygon with 8 sides.
Huh. Well, I'm going to go ahead and write that down quickly since you gave me the answer.
Mm-hmm.
So an octagon is an 8-sided shape.
Yep.
Now, you told me that there was another one.
Yes. So this shape down here looks like the rhombus, but it's technically called, and this is really a long, crazy word, it's called a parallelogram. Can you say that? Parallelogram.
Parallelogram. Whoa,
I
that's
know.
a mouthful. That's like the biggest word I've ever said.
It's really big. And it's a really long word to write, too, so have fun with that.
Okay, thank you. What is a parallelogram?
Well, being that I used to be a 5th grade teacher, and we talked a lot about parallelograms in 5th grade, I'll let you know. We know that the word parallel, I know, you don't know this. Parallel means that there's 2 lines that are running in the same direction and they're never going to touch. They just run the same.
Like
these.
the top and the bottom.
Yes. But also,
Mm-hmm.
the lines that go this way are also going in the same direction.
Oh.
Okay. And you might be saying, Miss Grant, a square also has lines that go in the same direction, and so does a rectangle. But a parallelogram usually looks a little squished, kind of like that rhombus, like somebody stepped on a rectangle a little bit. There's a lot more distinguishing characteristics about a parallelogram that you'll learn later in life, like 4th or 5th grade. But to keep it basic, kind of looks like a squished rectangle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a parallelogram is a squished rectangle.
Yes.
I like that definition for 2nd graders.
Yeah.
You know a way that I learned about parallelogram?
Tell me.
The 2-letter L's in the word parallel,
Uh-huh.
they kind of look like the straight lines on the shape. That's how I used to remember that.
Nice. Oh, you
So-
want to cross that out?
I would love to.
Okay.
Now here's the thing. I'm nearly positive, and when I say nearly, I'm very close to being positive, that I think all of the other answers that they need can be found using this reference page.
The only trick that you might see, this guy right here is flipped upside down than the example on this page.
Like this one.
And it's okay if it's flipped upside down, it's still the same shape.
Still the same shape.
And just another hint, there's only one more 3D shape left. The rest of them are 2D shapes that you should be familiar with or able to count the sides and find out what they mean over here. Okay, that's one side of the math page.
Yep. Let's take a look at
have another side. So I'm going to have you erase this while I get this next one sorted. All right. I'm going to need to disassemble that guy.
It's really nice of us to do so much of the worksheet.
It
for our
really,
students.
really is.
Even when the videos are long, by the time they're done, they're probably done with their worksheet.
Yeah, they are.
All right. Well, it looks like we have a write and sort, I like to call it. Not a cut and sort. You might have thought that those
dashed
lines and the scissors that I whited out meant to cut, but we don't want you to cut your packet up because we can solve this problem a little bit more easily. I changed the directions. And instead of cutting, we are going to write the name of the shape on the chart in the correct column. So we have our flat shapes, which also mean our 2D shapes, and we have our solid shapes, which are our 3D shapes.
Maybe you can have them write that in right next to it.
And like see if they watched our entire video.
Yep.
Not just the first few minutes.
2D and 3D.
Ooh, I love that. That's a good way to tell if they watched our video when we grade your packet. All right. So I think we can only do a couple of them for them this time.
Yeah, it looks pretty easy. You can see which one of them, especially when it's right next to each other. This is kind of like the 3D version of this, huh?
Ooh, so you just gave one away.
I did.
You just told me that this cube is 3D, so I can come over here and all I need to do is write the word cube.
You should like cross it out.
Yeah, and then cross that one out if you've used it. You also told me that this is the 3D version of this, which tells me the square
is 2D.
Yeah.
I feel like that's enough. Like they should be able to do the rest of this page and put them in the correct column under 2D and 3D shapes.
I agree. I feel confident in our teaching, and I feel confident in their abilities that they can finish this worksheet.